All right, so let's get right into it. There's a case at a major corporate office that has absolutely exploded online, but the story being told, well, it goes way beyond just the workplace. In this explainer, we're going to break down all the claims from a viral video about this TCS Nashik case and how it allegedly connects to a much, much bigger conspiracy.
Wow. Okay, so the video we're looking at kicks off with this really provocative statement. It immediately frames its entire argument, right? It's basically saying, hey, look at the hypocrisy. This one sentence really sets the stage for their whole narrative, that there's a strategic silence from certain people when it comes to specific kinds of crimes.
So before we can even get into that bigger picture the source is painting, we've got to go back to the beginning. What exactly happened at the TCS office in Nashik that sparked this whole firestorm? Let's break down the specific allegations.
And these are some heavy allegations. We're not just talking about one thing. There's sexual harassment and exploitation, religious coercion, and even claims of an organized conversion racket running inside the office. But here's the real kicker. According to the source, when employees tried to complain, they were supposedly shut down by the HR department, the very people meant to protect them. And one name keeps popping up as the main accused, Nidakon, an HR member.
And look, this wasn't just one person with a grievance. We are talking about nine separate police reports or FIRs filed. 8 female employees and 1 male employee all came forward. That number is a really big deal in the source's narrative because it suggests a pattern of behavior that was affecting multiple people. Now, according to the source, this wasn't some new problem. The alleged activities started way back in 2022. It wasn't until March 25th of this year that the first formal complaint finally dropped. But once it did, things moved fast. By April 3rd, you had all 9 of those FIRs filed. And then, just a couple of weeks later, on April 15th, the whole game changed. A special investigation team, or SIT, got involved, and they started digging into a much more serious angle.
And this is where the story just absolutely explodes. The source claims the police aren't just looking at harassment anymore. They're investigating possible sedition charges and terror links. Specifically, they're looking into an alleged connection between the main accused, Nida Khan, and a suspect who was already arrested in connection with the Delhi bomb blast case. I mean, just like that, this goes from a corporate HR issue to a matter of national security.
Okay, so with all that context on the TCS case, the video then zooms out. It argues that what happened in Nashik, that's not a one-off incident. It presents it as just one piece of a much larger, repeating pattern that's happening all across the country.
So how do they back that up? Well, the video cites Supreme Court lawyer Ashwini Upadhyay, who talks about an alleged case involving a staggering 75,000 children who went missing from 5 different states. He claims they were later found in orphanages in Kerala, and every single one of them had been converted. The source presents this as proof that organized kidnapping for conversion is a real thing.
Then they point to another case, this one from Amravati in Maharashtra. Here, a young man was accused of trapping around 180 underage girls. The alleged method was to gain their trust, get them caught in what the source calls a love snare, make explicit videos, and then use those videos for blackmail. This case got so big that the accused was arrested, his illegal property was demolished, and it sparked citywide protests.
So when you put these different cases side by side, you start to see the pattern the source is trying to establish. On one side, you have poor kids allegedly targeted for religious conversion. On the other, underage girls trapped for exploitation. Now, the methods and the immediate goals are different, sure, but the source argues that they both represent a kind of organized crime that preys on the most vulnerable people.
And this brings us to the real heart of the video's critique. It's not just about the crimes themselves. It's about who is and who isn't talking about them. The video alleges a strategic silence from people who are usually very loud about social issues. The source asks the question directly. Where are the intellectuals, the media commentators, the corporate leaders who are always speaking out against injustice? Why do they seem to go completely quiet when these specific kinds of cases pop up? Is it just a blind spot, or is it intentional? And here's their explanation for that silence. The video claims that instead of just condemning the crime, the conversation shifts to the identity of the criminal. If the perpetrator belongs to a specific community, they argue, a victim card gets played, and any criticism of the act gets deflected as an attack on the whole community. And in all of that noise, they say, the actual victim is forgotten.
This slide really lays out the whole hypocrisy argument they're making.
The source claims that the very same people who called the movie the careless story propaganda are totally silent on the real-world allegations in the TCS case. They'll post about fashion brands or international politics, but when it comes to organized grooming crimes or the controversial idea of love jihad, crickets.
Now, the argument expands even further. The source connects these local incidents to what it describes as a coordinated, global phenomenon, one with a very specific and destructive goal.
To understand this final claim, you need to understand this word they use, syndicate. As they define it, this isn't about a few lone criminals. A syndicate is an organized, well-funded network. It has money, lawyers, and powerful people providing cover, which makes it incredibly hard to fight.
And this syndicate, the source claims, has a chilling four-step playbook. First, you target a society's future, its women and children. Second, you create an atmosphere of so much fear that the local community feels unsafe. Third, that insecurity forces the original population to just pack up and leave. And the final goal, step 4, permanently change the demographic makeup of that whole region. And to back up this global claim, the source points to international examples. They bring up the infamous grooming gangs in the UK, suggesting it's a similar pattern. They make a broader reference to the situation in Europe, and, pretty interestingly, they note that the term love jihad wasn't a political invention, but was allegedly first flagged as a threat by Christian churches in Kerala, who said they saw their own girls being targeted for conversion.
So we're left with this final, challenging question that the source material puts on the table. Are these all just tragic but separate criminal acts? Or are they, as the video argues, pieces of a much larger, coordinated conspiracy designed to change societies from within? That's the core question this whole analysis leaves us with.